Moana is an upcoming American musical adventure film that is a live-action adaptation of Disney's 2016 animated film Moana, and the third installment in the Moana franchise. It is being directed by Kail from a screenplay by Jared Bush and Dana Ledoux Miller, and produced by Dwayne Johnson, Hiram, and Dany Garcia, Flynn and songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda. It stars Catherine Lagaia in her film debut as Moana and Johnson reprising his role as Maui from the animated films. Development of a live-action Moana film was announced by Johnson in April 2023. Kail was hired as director in May of the same year and Lagaia was announced in the title role in June 2024, along with the main supporting cast. Principal photography occurred in Atlanta and Hawaii between July and November 2024. Moana is scheduled to be released by Walt Disney Studios Motion Pictures in the United States on July 10, 2026. Prompted by a summons from the ocean, Moana departs her home island of Motunui for the first time and travels past its barrier reef. Accompanied by the demigod Maui, she undertakes a voyage aimed at recovering the well-being of her community. On April 3, 2023, it was announced on Dwayne Johnson's official YouTube channel that a live-action remake of Moana, 2016, was in development at Walt Disney Pictures, with Johnson producing alongside his ex-wife Dany Garcia along with her brother, Johnson's ex-brother-in-law Hiram Garcia, for 7 Bucks Productions, and Flynn for Flynn Picture Co., and the animated film's lead star. Ollie I. Cravalho serving as executive producer. Johnson remarked, "This story is my culture, and this story is emblematic of our people's grace and warrior's strength. I wear this culture proudly on my skin and in my soul, and this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reunite with Maui, inspired by the mana and spirit of my late grandfather, High Chief Peter Mavia, is one that runs very deep for me. Here is no better world for us to honor the story of our people, our passion, and our purpose than through the realm of music and dance, which is at the core of who we are as Polynesian people." Sean Bailey, Disney Live Action's president of production at the time, acknowledged that, although only 7 years had passed since the animated film was released, the celebration of Disney's 100th anniversary contributed to the decision to remake the film so soon. On May 31, 2023, Kail was announced as the director, making his narrative feature directorial debut after helming the live film recording of the Broadway production of Hamilton, 2020. Casting was expected to begin later in the year, but was suspended until November 8, 2023, due to the 2023 SAG-AFTRA strike. In February 2024, Johnson stated that an actress had been cast in the titular role, but that the actress would be kept under wraps for the time being. In June, Catherine Lagaia was revealed to be the actress cast in the titular role, alongside John Tui, Frankie Adams, and Rena Owen joining the cast, with Jared Bush and Moana 2 co-director Dana Ledoux Miller writing the screenplay. This marked the third collaboration between Johnson and Tui, after Hobbs and Shaw, 2019, and Young Rock, 2021-2023. In August 2025, it was announced that Alan Tudyk would not reprise his role as Hai from the animated films. An undisclosed actress was then confirmed to do the voice role for Hai instead. Principal photography began in Atlanta, Georgia on July 29, 2024, under the working title Canon, and wrapped in Hawaii on November 22. It was previously scheduled to begin filming in June 2024 under the working title Motorheads, after being delayed from an October 2023 start date due to the SAG-AFTRA strike. Oscar Freer serves as cinematographer. Bill Westenhofer serves as the visual effects supervisor, having left the Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU, film Captain America, Brave New World, 2025, to do so. In August 2025, it was revealed that the studio wanted to use an AI-generated deepfake of Johnson's face composite onto a body double for select shots with the actor's approval and the help of AI company Metaphysic, but later abandoned the idea to avoid potential controversy in the midst of societal and governmental issues surrounding the regulation of AI in the filmmaking process and everyday life. Mark Mancina, who provided the musical score for the original film and its sequel, confirmed in December 2024 that he will return to score the remake. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who was a songwriter for the original film, will also return. He was not involved with Moana 2 due to scheduling conflicts. A teaser trailer was released on November 17, 2025 along with the first poster. Moana is scheduled to be released on July 10, 2026, coinciding with the 10th anniversary of the franchise and the release of the original film. The film is expected to be released in IMAX. It was originally scheduled for release on June 27, 2025, but following the announcement of Moana 2, it was delayed 1 year to its current date to offset the short gap between the two films. Moana, live action, 2026, The Ocean Chooses Her, Again. Got out of my rut and gave this film a chance. A chance it proved to completely deserve because it turned out to be an absolute delight. Okay, basic plot: 8,000 years ago, the goddess Te Fiti created the islands and life. After her heart is stolen by Maui, Dwayne Johnson, a demigod with the ability to shapeshift, a darkness spreads across the oceans and its islands. One of these islands, Motunui, is the home of Moana, Ali Kravalho. Moana is the daughter of the island's chief and heir to his throne. She has always longed to explore the ocean and travel past the reef that surrounds her home. Moana's dreams come true when she is chosen to travel across the ocean and return the heart of Te Fiti to her. To do this she'll need the help of the very thief who stole Te Fiti's heart, Maui. This film truly was delightful to watch. The film's story is a rich tapestry which is woven together with the thread of self-acceptance and realization. Moana is a character who wishes to break away from the mundane traditions and practices that her father has set out for her. Everyone on her island looks towards the soil for their happiness, but Moana knows hers lies outward in the ocean. She's a wonderful rebel and an extremely likable character. Yes, you could easily compare her to Pocahontas, and there were a few moments where I felt like Disney was just recreating one of their classics. This is purely because of Moana's rebellious spirit and not overall plot. The film is a wonderful adventure story that sticks to Disney's new, post-Frozen style of storytelling, where the love story isn't necessarily between the two leads, but rather the lead and her family. There are also a few jokes which challenge the traditional classification of Disney princess, which I really enjoyed. The only shortcoming the film's plot has is how predictable and formulaic it is. Don't get me wrong, this film is a delight to watch, but it's not going to surprise you, unless it's the first movie you've ever seen. The film also does a truly fantastic job showcasing and celebrating Polynesian culture. From the ethnicity in its cast to the stunning visuals and representation of traditions and customs, the film pays great reverence to the culture it depicts. The film's voice cast, in particular Ali Kravalho, are magnificent. I expected Dwayne Johnson to be the lead in this film, and while he is amazing, this film truly belongs to Kravalho. She is brilliant. There is a strength and sincerity in her voice that brings the character to life wonderfully. She is the bedrock of everything that is fun about this movie. Dwayne Johnson also does a fantastic job in this film and continues to solidify his place as Hollywood royalty. Now, this being a Disney animated feature, there have to be a few songs in there. Shortly after leaving the theater, I downloaded this film's soundtrack and have been listening to it religiously. I love songs from Disney movies because they have a musical feel to them. By that I mean, it feels like the songs were written for a musical. The songs aren't just pop songs added to the film to avoid silence, but rather rich harmonies which intensify and highlight the emotions of scenes. How Far I'll Go by Ali Kravalho is a favorite and is a perfect summation of the character's angst and journey in the film. You're Welcome is a funny, catchy tune which threatens to get stuck in your head like Let It Go did. Overall, Moana is a wonderful film. It has a strong female in its lead, which is a thing we definitely need more of in film. It's funny, has songs that you'll be singing along to long after the film ends, and a great moral at its heart. It's definitely worth watching. Director, Ron Clements, John Musker. Starring, Dwayne Johnson, Ali Kravalho, Jemaine Clement, Alan Tudyk, Nicole Scherzinger 2016 proved to be extra special for Disney fanatics as Moana is the second film from the Walt Disney Animation Studios this year following Zootopia. Both films are uniquely different, proving Disney has no reason to slow down. If you grew up in the 90s during their Renaissance period watching the likes of The Little Mermaid, The Lion King, or Hercules, Moana may just remind you of the traditional style you grew up on that shaped your love of their work. It feels all the more appropriate given the values that tradition and culture play on young Moana, voiced by newcomer Ollie Cravalho. Like many Disney heroines that have come before, she's a scrappy young girl with an independent spirit. She's the daughter of the chief on Motunui Island who is poised to be the ruler of the land someday. There is a darkness sweeping over the island and resources are becoming scarce, threatening the lives of its residents. They live in dilemma, as they believe it is too dangerous to go beyond the reef. Moana may be young, but she is adventurous, as she wants to voyage out like her ancestors to see what may be beyond the reef in order to save her people. She is told by her wise grandma Tala, House, to find the demigod and shapeshifter Maui, Johnson, and return a gem known as the Heart of Te Fiti. Te Fiti was the original island and has now been long extinct. Despite it being a CG animated film like so many are nowadays, Moana has the distinct look of the hand-drawn films that I had mentioned earlier. That's partly because directors Ron Clements and John Musker also wrote and directed Aladdin and The Little Mermaid and have brought back their distinct visual style and storytelling methods. In a way, they are not trying to reinvent the wheel with a contemporary look like recent Disney films, Wreck-It Ralph, or Big Hero 6. There's a return to form for the Broadway-inspired score thanks to Opetaya Foai, Mark Mancina, and Lin-Manuel Miranda. Miranda just swept the Tonys with his record-breaking Hamilton. If you've heard that music, you can clearly hear Miranda's influence on many of the songs. Moana carries on with Disney leaning away from making their main female characters the standard princess archetype. Maui does have a funny line where he tries to debunk this concept by telling her, "If you wear a dress, have an animal sidekick, you're a princess." Some of that may be true as Moana's friend Hai sneaks on board her raft when she sets out to find Maui. Hai is a clueless rooster, and unlike many Disney sidekicks, he isn't some sassy know-it-all. He doesn't speak an audible word but clucks his way through many scenes thanks to Disney standby actor Alan Tudyk. It's a refreshing turn for Disney as those sidekick characters can often run annoying. Hai is too cute and too silly for that. As Maui, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson makes his Disney animated film debut. The character is practically shaped around the actor but in animated form. He can shift his eyebrows, flex his muscles, and be the outrageous comedic type. The character was originally designed with a different look but modeled after Johnson once he was cast and to adhere to the vision many native people have of the demigod Maui. While he may be a demigod, there are no romantic feelings between he and Moana. She has zero time for the standard dimwit prince characters we have seen countless times before. Moana has fun and adventurous moments along that way that put Moana, Maui, and Hai in peril. They're out in the middle of the ocean, so they are bound to run into some dangerous situations that test their bravery. At one point, they come face to face with an angry tribe of coconuts that seemed ripped out of Mad Max Fury Road. Kids won't get that reference, but the adults may appreciate the influence. It should come as no surprise that the animation is breathtaking with specific attention toward keeping it true to the culture. All of the water and lava effects are quite realistic looking, making them appear sharper than some live-action movies. Parents may want to hold the hands of their wee little ones during the film's climax with the lava monster. While Moana doesn't feel as revolutionary as other Disney films of late, it still works and will be widely successful. It has a charming fighter of a title character that will no doubt appeal to many of the young moviegoers who will watch the movie. It has the Pacific look of Lilo and Stitch, the importance of family and culture like The Lion King, and the humor of Hercules. It asks kids to think about their calling in life. It may even bring about conversations about their heritage and what aspects of their grandparents' or great-grandparents' culture could they adapt into their lives. Is it worth your trip to the movies? While I prefer Zootopia, Moana is still a winner for Disney. Hey. It's time for Disney Film Review number 9. This time it's a return to the Disney revival era for the 56th and the last original film released by Disney Animation Studios to date, Moana. Full disclosure, this hero's journey about arguably the fourth Disney princess we've seen so far. Humorously, the film openly debates Moana's princess status within itself. Is a chief's daughter and heir a princess? I'm saying so, is one my, and Diana's, favorites of Disney's recent films. Diana and I had each seen it 2 times prior to this viewing, the last time of which was only a couple of months prior, so we were wary that there may be some film fatigue setting in on this watch through, knowing the film too well that might restrict some of its magic. We needn't have worried. Before I go into the specifics of why we hold this film in such high regard, let me run through what the film's about. As it's a newer film, I'll take extra care not to spoil too much in this review. You're welcome. Moana, the brave, adventurous, resourceful, occasionally goofy yet kind-hearted protagonist, is heir to the chiefdom of her island, Motunui. However, she is torn between her fascination with the ocean and her duty to her people, and particularly her father, who has forbidden going beyond the reefs, having been traumatized by tragedy in his youth. She accepts her role as chief's daughter, yet the island's way of life starts to deteriorate as a result of the goddess Te Fiti missing her heart. It sounds strange, but it makes sense while you're watching, and, with the guidance of her sagely grandmother, the stock eccentric mentor character, who helps her realize that her people were once great explorers, it becomes apparent that she must defy her father and explore the open seas to save her people. Her mission then is to find the demigod Maui and get his help to restore the heart of Te Fiti to save the world. Cue a voyage full of fun, humor, emotion, and self-discovery. I'm not going to mince my words. Even though we were watching it for a 3rd time, we loved it just as much, perhaps more, than the previous 2 times, and it sits proudly amongst the greatest animated features, or films full stop, produced by Disney. What was so good about it though? On a surface level, it provides great action-packed entertainment, from the opening lore, which functions not only to provide an introduction to the world Moana inhabits, but also establishes her as a character who loves adventure, to her battles to overcome the might of the ocean, as well as her initial inability to sail, the stubborn demigod Maui, and the various dangerous monsters they encounter, culminating in a showdown against the titanic tortured lava monster Te Ka. It's also a funny film too, with the interplay between Moana and Maui being particularly amusing, although special mention to the vacant chicken Hey Hey, while also really aiding in building a sense of the growing camaraderie between the characters. However, while the action-packed set pieces and humor are strong, the film's emotional depth is what makes it great. The characters are strong, have clear motivations, consistency, and their journeys and development fit together seamlessly to create a beautiful thematic symphony of a film. Moana is essentially a story about identity, and almost all the characters have arcs that tie into that. Moana's is the most obvious. From a young age she is adventurous and, due to her kindness, I always like it when kindness marks out a hero. Bravery and resourcefulness that she demonstrates in helping a small turtle is chosen by the ocean. Moreover, it is later apparent that she has exploring in her blood. However, it is also clear that she would be a great fit as the chief, and gains great satisfaction from her role on the island too, which allows her to believe that she could perhaps be happy where she is. Of course, she ultimately is driven to the ocean to save her island, yet the voices of doubt, both originating from the island and Maui's cynicism, linger, so even while she outwardly asserts that she has been chosen, she does not truly believe it until she experiences failure and reaches a crisis moment where she ponders whether she was just meant to take her place as chief instead. With her cookie enigmatic grandmother's help, who refreshingly is not pushy about forcing her to do what's right, but gentle, encouraging and kind, which allows Moana to find her own voice, Moana discovers that she is neither just the chief's daughter nor an explorer, but both, culminating in a moment of pure catharsis where she triumphantly declares, "I am Moana," which makes me a little emotional even recalling it. There is something refreshing and less well-worn in a narrative that does not simply assert that you are either A or B, but recognizes that a given individual has multiple callings, You are not forced to choose between one or the other. However, Maui, voiced perfectly by Dwayne, who knew he could act so well, The Rock Johnson, despite his status as the comic half of the duo, is probably one of the deepest, best written characters in the film. His first appearance is antagonistic as he steals the heart of Te Fiti to set the stage for the adventure. Once Moana meets him, he is humanized as a vain, selfish, and cynical individual. Ultimately, however, it is apparent that his main motivation is a desire to be loved by people. Indeed, it is his need to be seen as a hero that Moana exploits initially to get Maui to help her in her quest to save her island, stemming from his rejection by his own parents, which leads to him constantly trying to do more and more to earn approval, leading to him causing a cataclysm, the loss of his hook, which he uses to transform into other creatures, and exile to stew on his own failures. In particular, his mind is ravaged by the self-doubt of thinking that his hook is the only thing that makes him worth anything, much like Aladdin believes that the genie is the only thing that gives him value in his film. His self-doubt is particularly manifest in him being unable to use his hook initially. As Moana helps rediscover his own value, he is able to remaster its abilities. It is ultimately his willingness to embrace himself without the hook that is his mountain to overcome in the film. By contrast, one of the secondary antagonists, Jermaine Clement's villainous giant crab, Tomato, serves to provide a counterexample to our heroes, and Moana's grandmother, in encouraging Moana to find her own voice. Instead of embracing himself, he instead covers up his insecurities with superfluous gold and treasure. As he states in his villain song, speaking of animation and music, both are stunning, evoking the setting and complementing the great storytelling perfectly. The water animation looks incredible, just as well for a film which is set in the middle of the ocean for 80% of it. The character models are a great balance between detailed and cartoony, which should lend it a timelessness going forward. The cultural depictions seem respectful and a lot of care has been obviously taken over them. It was nice that the majority of the characters cast were of Polynesian descent in particular. A real strength of this is that there are never any distracting, disassociating moments that displace from the setting. The important moral argument for this type of casting goes without saying. Moreover, the music, particularly the Pacific Island influences and languages utilized, also helps immerse the viewer into the setting and really evoke emotion too. That's before we get onto the songs themselves too, which were truly excellent. High points are Moana's I Want song, How Far I'll Go. So were there any less than brilliant things about the movie? Only a few maybe. There's a bit near the beginning where Moana's father is about to burn down some boats, a la King Triton, but gets distracted by his dying mother, which was a bit messily told. It felt a bit like they had written themselves into a corner with that bit in particular. Also, given the film's setup and the overprotectiveness of her father, it feels a bit strange that her parents aren't a bit more panicked at the end of the film, given his daughter has been away for such a long time with no contact. I feel that there could have been a bit more emotion there. Then I'm really scraping the barrel. Moana's lucky at points, not a valid criticism for me. A Mary Sue, I don't think so. You don't see Maui's pivotal revelatory moment, benefits the story. Some might argue that the fact it hits familiar beats in its story means it lacks originality, but I would disagree. Nothing is truly original, all art builds upon previous artwork. The consensus of film as a form of art is surely evidence of this itself. Someone made the first film and people have been building on it ever since. I would argue that Moana does this. If a formula works, why not use it and build from there? A better question, however, is how well does the film, as a medium of communication, achieve what it sets out to do? Moana made me laugh and cry. I empathized with the characters. I was engrossed and I feel it communicated its themes about identity pleasingly and clearly. What more can you ask for from a family film? The female empowerment of Frozen gets a colorful Polynesian makeover in the joyful rites of passage animation Moana, peppered with infectious songs composed by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Opetaya Foi, and Mark Mancina. Directors Ron Clements and John Musker, who previously fashioned The Little Mermaid and Aladdin, rediscover their golden touch on land and at sea, with breathtaking visuals including dazzling water effects. They also wedge tongues firmly in cheek by poking fun at the lead character's stern assertion that she isn't an archetypal Disney heroine. If you wear a dress and have an animal sidekick, you're a princess, quips a demigod, who joins her on this memorable odyssey into the magical unknown. The key message of Frozen, that girls don't need a handsome prince to achieve their happily ever after, is reaffirmed, and the script incorporates the now obligatory smattering of pop culture references. Like when the same demigod scrawls a message with a rooster and deadpans, "When you write with a bird, it's called tweeting." The songbook might lack a karaoke earworm akin to Let It Go, Parents, You Can Breathe Easy, but the film still boasts some terrific compositions, particularly the solo offerings of Miranda, who won numerous Tony Awards for the musical Hamilton. Moana Waialike, voiced by Ollie Cravalho, is the daughter of Chief Tui, Timura Morrison, and has been groomed since birth to lead her people on the island of Motunui. However, she feels a strong calling to the sea which angers her father, who believes the tropical paradise can sustain their tribe. Moana's wise grandmother Tala, Rachel House, fills the girl's head with wild stories about the demigod Maui, who stole the heart of the island goddess Te Fiti and lost this precious green stone during a battle with ferocious lava demon Te Ka. The old woman encourages Moana to seek out Maui and restore Te Fiti's missing heart in order to bring prosperity to the island. With the wind in her sail and a witless rooster called Hai, Alan Tudyk, by her side, Moana ventures over the reef for the first time in search of Maui. Dwayne Johnson. Moana is another solid gold hit from Disney's animation studio, marrying self-realization and broad comedy to dizzying effect. A trippy interlude with a singing coconut crab, Jemaine Clement, in the underwater realm of the monsters is a highlight, including one groovy lyric that rhymes demigod with decapod. Johnson embraces his role with comic gusto, including a fine rendition of the self-congratulatory anthem, "You're Welcome," and Cravalho imbues her gung-ho seafarer with tenderness and determination. Moana is preceded by Leo Matsuda's exquisite animated short Inner Workings, which journeys inside the body of one hapless office worker to explore the literal battle between head and heart for supremacy. Swearing, no sex, violence, rating, 8/10. Sully, Miracle on the Hudson, 12A, 94 minutes, thriller/action/romance. Tom Hanks, Aaron Eckhart, Laura Linney, Mike O'Malley, Anna Gunn, Jamie Sheridan, Patch Dara, Vince Lombardi. Director, Clint Eastwood. Released, December 2, UK and Ireland, on January 15, 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 took off from LaGuardia Airport in New York bound for North Carolina with 155 passengers and crew on board. 3 minutes into takeoff, a flock of Canadian geese impacted the aircraft, causing multiple strikes to both engines that necessitated an emergency landing. Captain Chesley Sullenberger, known affectionately as Sully, drew on years of experience to glide the stricken Airbus A320 onto the Hudson River in freezing conditions rather than head back to LaGuardia or another runway. Aided by First Officer Jeff Skiles, Sully safely landed on water and oversaw the evacuation of everyone on board into ferry boats that raced to the scene, aided by scuba divers from the NYPD's Aviation Unit and Harbor Unit. The captain was hailed a hero by a city still bearing the scars of the September 11 attacks. It's been a while since New York had news this good, especially with an airplane in it, observes one of the characters in Sully, Miracle on the Hudson, which centers on the subsequent investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, into Sully's actions that fateful day. Clint Eastwood's exemplary thriller is a masterclass in sustained tension, replaying events aboard U.S. Airways Flight 1549 and from the ground, from multiple perspectives, including air traffic controller Patrick Harton, Patch Dara, and ferry boat captain, Vince Lombardi, playing himself. Screenwriter Todd Komarnicki punctuates this deeply human story with different iterations of the crash landing, including chilling scenes of the Airbus plowing into skyscrapers when Sully, Tom Hanks, imagines a fruitless attempt to reach LaGuardia. The NTSB investigation led by Charles Porter, Mike O'Malley, Elizabeth Davis, Anna Gunn, and Ben Edwards, Jamie Sheridan. Forms the crux, and the script nimbly condenses the actual 15-month time frame to explore the emotional strain on Sully and First Officer Skiles, Aaron Eckhart, as they defend their actions. I've had 40 years in the air, but in the end, I'm going to be judged by 208 seconds, laments Sully as technical data from the craft suggests one of the engines was operational, contradicting his version of events. A media storm envelopes the crew, and Sully seeks refuge in regular telephone calls to his concerned wife, Lorraine, Laura Linney. Shot largely on IMAX cameras, Sully, Miracle on the Hudson is a rousing tribute to a man who repeatedly deflects praise and quietly observes, "I don't feel like a hero. I was just a man doing a job." Hanks delivers a deeply affecting, yet understated, lead performance, eliciting pathos as he contends with post-traumatic stress disorder in the eye of a media storm. Eastwood withholds the crash landing in full until the middle of his taut and lean picture, by which time we have fully buckled our seat belts and are braced for greatness. Swearing, no sex, violence, rating, 8/10. The Edge of 17, 15, 104 minutes, comedy/drama/romance. Haley Steinfeld, Haley Lou Richardson, Blake Jenner, Kyra Sedgwick, Woody Harrelson, Hayden Zetto, Alexander Calvert, Eric Keenleyzide. Director, Amma Asante. Released, November 30, UK and Ireland. Every generation has a coming-of-age film that perfectly encapsulates the trials and romantic vacillations of those hormone-fueled years on the precipice of adulthood. In the 1950s, James Dean was the iconic rebel without a cause, and 2 decades later, The Last Picture Show, American Graffiti, and Quadrophenia struck a chord before John Hughes monopolised depictions of youth culture with The Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Pretty in Pink. More recently, Clueless, Mean Girls, Napoleon Dynamite, This Is England, and Juno have beautifully reflected the awkwardness of adolescence and the apocalyptic sense of doom that pervades every setback at that impressionable age. Now, Kelly Fremon Craig writes and directs a bittersweet new addition to the pantheon with this deftly sketched portrait of a 17-year-old girl, who feels unloved at home and misunderstood by classmates. Peppered with acidic one-liners and some lovely moments of raw, unvarnished emotion that leave a lump in the throat, The Edge of 17 traverses familiar territory with aplomb. A running commentary from the film's sarcastic heroine ensures plenty of laughs, before characters face the consequences of their reckless actions. Nadine Bird, Haley Steinfeld, has always been jealous of her good-looking and popular older brother, Darian, Blake Jenner. Their mother Mona, Kyra Sedgwick, treats Darian like a golden child and Nadine's chief protector, her father Tom. Eric Keenleyzide, dies from a heart attack during a drive with his daughter. Her only friend is Krista, Haley Lou Richardson, a fellow outcast who shares her disdain for conformity. Out of the blue, Nadine discovers that Krista is dating her brother Darian, and this betrayal of the sisterly bond drives a wedge between the girls. It's me or him. Pick. Screams Nadine in a school corridor. Cast adrift from her gal pal, Nadine turns to sardonic teacher Mr. Bruner, Woody Harrelson, for advice. Her mother also shares a mantra that helps her get through each day: everyone in the world is as empty and miserable as I am. They're just better at pretending. The emotional vortex intensifies as Nadine politely tolerates romantic overtures from a nerdy classmate, Hayden Zetto, and pines from afar for a handsome older boy, Alexander Calvert, who works at the local Petland store. The Edge of 17 is a delight, anchored by Steinfeld's touching embodiment of a young woman who feels like she is a crudely fashioned square peg in a world of perfectly round holes. End-screen rapport with Harrelson's droll educator is sparkling, and proves crucial when Fremon Craig's script force-feeds the central character painful home truths. The writer-director achieves a pleasing balance between light and shade, and supporting cast aren't short-changed either, even Jenner's hunky sibling, who could have been reduced to a window dressing. Everybody hurts, even those who look like they have their lives in pristine order. He good. When you have a Disney animated film from Ron Clements and John Musker, you know it is a must-see film. If you don't know, Clements and Musker are the directors of some of your favorite Disney films of the past. From The Little Mermaid, Aladdin, Hercules, and The Princess and the Frog, they have brought us stories of characters of different backgrounds, cultures, and mythologies. With Moana, their first computer-animated feature, they showcase the culture of the Pacific Islands in Polynesia. They texturize their culture through movement, story, and song, all in detailed thought and ultimate respect. Moana is Disney going back to telling a princess story, but taking the Deadpool route by being meta at the same time. It is all the director's filmography rolled into one film. It has the animation techniques and mythology of Hercules, the designs of The Little Mermaid, and some other stuff. It is hard not to give an animated Disney film credit where credit is due to its animation. With Zootopia we are brought into an entirely detailed world relying on its story and production design. With Moana, the animation relies more on design of characters and style of animation. It mixes different styles of 2D animation and let it loose in this computer-generated world. They use 2D textures on three-dimensional bodies to express humor, scary imagery, and style. Some of the 2D is used for visual gags, most notably Maui's moving tattoo mini Maui that plays as his inner conscience, and some of it is used to breathe life in musical numbers. There is a Maui musical number that has Dwayne Johnson singing in a background of paper-like cut-out 2D animations that are visually appealing. With the 2D animation of the tattoos on Maui, it embodies, no pun intended, the same Greek vase art style of Hercules. If it is not surprising you with the animation style, the environment of nature is showcased in more effect than anything you've seen before. The ocean isn't only a plot device, but it is also a character. The production design of the islands Moana travels down to the natural resources such as water, rocks, and plants are shown in much detail and realism to extent that I'll welcome a live-action remake in 30 years if Disney wants to do it. Even the characters have a distinct look to them. Some facial features may look like recycled designs from Tangled, Frozen, and to an extent Lilo and Stitch, but then some designs are uniquely creative. What really makes up the film is the characters, especially on Moana herself. What I love what Disney has been doing in their films besides their animation department is the strength of female characters. Since Frozen, Disney used individuality to bring out character traits in their female leads, which are strengthened even further with this new princess. The film is really her coming-of-age story of finding her identity between her responsibilities of growing into royalty and her personal desire to see the world. She is young yet tough and cares for herself. She doesn't rely on others except on herself. She is the strongest female character Disney has created to have a film named after since Mulan. It is even great Disney found a Hawaiian high schooler named Ollie Cravalho to voice their teenage character, and her voice performance is as powerful as her character herself. With Maui, you have a demigod with the personality of Jack Sparrow. He is skilled with his way of sailing, but is very self-centered, but has a way of delivering funny lines of dialogue that poke fun as Disney norms in animated films. The film even has action sequences that are more fun than any given action sequence in the past several Pirates of the Caribbean film. When Maui and Moana have to team up, their friendship grows organically. The film does hit the similar plot points of any given Disney film. The story is a bit routine, but it takes some turns that get extremely weird and out of place. Mainly only one scene with a crab voiced by Jermaine Clements that leads to a Flight of the Conchords type musical number. You can see the climax coming from Smile Away and then the Deus Ex Machina. It is at the end of the day another Disney film, but it's one that will lift your spirits. The music in the film by Opetaya Foai, Mark Mancina, and Lin-Manuel Miranda is great. Like most Disney songs, they get stuck in your head and you're thinking of it till days in and out until you own the soundtrack. This is one of those films. The only issue with it is its musical cues. When a character is just in the middle of a sentence, a song just begins. It's very inconsistent, but then it just happens. But by Dwayne Johnson's song, you're in love and bopping your head.